Welcome to the Car Dealership Podcast, the show where we talk about transforming automotive retail. Today's guest is someone who connects the two worlds, born in the Netherlands with Chinese heritage and a sharp eye for what's coming next. You may have seen him speaking at the National Automotive Congress. Today, we go deeper. Welcome to the Car Dealership Podcast, John.
Thank you very much, Maarten.
Yeah, very welcome. So, John, for those who haven't met you, can you tell a bit about your background and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, so my background is actually in e-commerce and also innovation. So I studied innovation sciences, went to work for the largest e-commerce platform in the Netherlands. So I've been there as a strategy developer, so helping like the board, okay, what's happening in the next 5 to 10 years? How should we prepare the company for this? And I was like the only Chinese kid in the strategy team. Like the rest was all ex-McKinsey, Bain, like the big guys, and learned a lot from them. But I was like the only ones telling them, why are we not looking at China? Why are we only looking at Amazon in the US? Like, yeah, we can see the same thing happening like in the car industry. But for e-commerce, like back then, 2017, 18, the case was like, yeah, the US is like 5 years ahead of Europe in terms of e-commerce. And when we look, but the funny thing is when you look at e-commerce in China, it was like 5 to 10 to 15 years ahead. So I've been doing that for 7 years. Also took the board to China, very cool things. And for 2.5 years, I've become a keynote speaker. So I go to the big events. You can hire me. I would do some party tricks. And also I'm also a board member of the Netherlands China Business Council. So my goal is to bring the East and the West closer together. The world is very polarizing right now, even with Trump. And I believe you should bring those two together because they are so different in the way of thinking, so different in the way of doing business, and diversity makes everything better.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So yeah, I saw you speaking at the National Automotive Congress a few weeks ago, and I actually really liked your presentation. So that's why I also reached out to invite you to the podcast, because then you can reach an even bigger audience internationally to tell your story. You mentioned actually in your introduction that people are looking at Amazon at that time, and you said, why are we not looking at China? It's and it's the same as the car business. Do you then refer to that everybody's talking about Tesla as the example on how to get things done, and you actually should look at China?
Yeah. It's exactly the same. So we look at Amazon in the e-commerce industry, but we should have looked at Alibaba, JD, those were the big ones. And I think we went to China in 2019. So that was before the big EV craze in China. And BYD was already starting with the electric cars. But at that point, Pinduoduo just started up. Pinduoduo's daughter company is Temu. So everyone knows Temu now. They became the number 2 in 2 years. You had Shein, the clothing company. It's not very old. It's like 5 to 8 years, like especially with the international efforts. And now we have TikTok. It didn't exist yet in 2019 when I was in China with a delegation or e-commerce trip. And all those companies are now multi-billion-dollar international companies in a blink of an eye. And the same thing happened with the cars. Like, okay, we had BYD. They were like doing 300, 400,000 cars a year. And during COVID, it took off because China said we should have more electric cars. We should not depend on oil, because when you depend on oil, you depend on the US. So that's their political narrative. So we should not be depending on oil. So there came the big government incentives to make electric cars. But you had 650 car companies. Only 150 survived. But you have car brands that came out of nothing. They make amazing cars, amazing technology. They are fully autonomous. I think Huawei, the phone company, the 5G company, built 4 car brands in 2 years. So it's and Xiaomi, the phone company, also built a car and a factory from scratch within 2 years. So the speed is crazy. The brands you don't know about suddenly exist And they also have the technology. So yeah, we were all looking at Tesla, but Tesla themselves were looking at China already because their biggest factory is in Shanghai.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, well, I have a few questions prepared about Xiaomi, etc. Because you also mentioned some things during the presentation that actually was quite interesting. So, but before we go there, to complete the introduction, you also mentioned you were actually born in the Netherlands with Chinese roots, and you were actually talking about your grandparents visiting you, being on the phone constantly. So it's also showing that no matter the age, that the Chinese are really. Yeah, very used to technology. And so if you look at your view on technology, innovation, and mobility, and looking at your Dutch heritage, but also your Chinese heritage, how do you look at it? How did it shape you?
And so my grandparents in China are a big source of inspiration because they are the ones telling me which app to use in China and how to use it and which service. So they are super digital. And they're not the only ones. Like all grandparents in China are super digital. So it's something they have done right on digital inclusivity. And the cool thing is so I'm now currently 31 years old. When I went to China while I was still a kid, they were all looking up to Western Europe. Like, oh, your food is great, your safety is good, all the services are great, governments are well organized. So we were their benchmark like 25 years ago, 20 years ago. So they all wanted to visit Europe because life was so great here. They were jealous of my life here. And now, somewhere in the last 20 years, it turned around. Like, wow, in China, the tech is so great. The safety on the streets is amazing. E-commerce services are good. Food quality is great. Cities are super entertaining. And if you ask around on the Gen Z of China, they're not looking up to Europe anymore. They see Europe, Paris, Eiffel Tower, Amsterdam, nice city, Delft, the blue plates. So I've seen this change like while growing up, and that's quite amazing. Back then, as a child, I didn't want to be Chinese. I want to be Dutch. You always have the struggles as an immigrant child. But now I'm actually proud to be Chinese because wow, see what they did in 25 years. We should be doing more here in Europe.
Yeah. So who knows, the generation growing up here would say China is the example, and we should actually follow that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also,
not for all things.
if I remember it right, you mentioned something in your presentation where you said actually when you go to China, you experience all this technology. Your grandmother pays with her phone everywhere. When you actually they use the phones such a lot that there are charges everywhere to charge your phone, and you can pay it with the WeChat app. So it's very easy. But you also mentioned one thing is that when you return from China, what your feeling is, and that it's a feeling that you return into a museum. Is that right? Did I remember that well?
The plane is like a time machine.
Yeah, the plane is like a time machine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but especially like the last 5 years, like because during COVID I couldn't go, or I needed to go into quarantine for 2 months, so I didn't go. And so the last time was around 2020. We went there. 5 years later, I'm back. And the crazy part in those 5 years was the electric cars. You go on the streets, it's silent. All the car brands we don't know about, and I'm quite a car nerd, so I know the brands, I know the tech. See all those new brands. It was crazy, but the air pollution gone. On the streets, super quiet. All the scooters were already electric from 2017. So the mopeds, that's it's really disgusting that we still have them here in the Netherlands. The fuel mopeds, but just in 5 years, I think 50% of all the vehicles on the roads of the big cities are electric. And we in Europe are still like debating, should we do it or not? Can our charging infrastructure do it? Customers don't like it, and then you have like opposition in politics, in the car dealerships, on people, but you also have people that love it. So you have both dynamics still working, while the Chinese government already decided this is the next logical thing. So we should help the industry achieve this.
Yeah, because one thing you mentioned also is that and I agree with that. So if we as Europeans think about China, you see the images of a smog city, and that we are here living in an area with clean air. But you also mentioned that it changed drastically. It's clean, and people drive electric, and that's mainly the choice they made, and also the efforts that the government puts in it. Because there's also something like with the blue plate or the green plate. So if you want to
So
buy a car with a normal, actually, I think electric engine is then the new normal. But let's say you want a combustion engine, it's possible, but you'll need to wait a long time.
yeah, so in the big cities, there are just too many cars. So you need to register for a license plate, and then you need to wait whether one comes available. And in Shanghai, it's now 10 to 15 years wait for a license plate. So you can buy a car, but you cannot drive it around because it doesn't have a license plate. And usually they were blue, and then they introduced a green license plate for the electric cars. And the big city governments said, okay, if you want a green license plate, you get priority. You become on top of the queue. So people could get a license plate within a few months. So yeah, everyone's going to start to buy electric cars. And this is going to hold up at some point, because then you still have too many cars. But this really helped to start off people buy electric cars. Then the car manufacturers know for sure, oh, there is a market, because the government just created a market. And the funniest thing is, this government incentive does not cost cash money.
Okay.
Because it's a form of subsidy, but it does not cost money. It's just policy change.
Yeah, of course. It's just you want something quick, then you for sure buy an electric car. So it's
Net, we have all kinds of problems, because the electric cars have a 0% leasing tariff for business users. They don't pay the VAT. So the governments in Europe give cash money incentives to buy an electric car. And now the government says, yeah, we are low on cash. We have our budget is not calculating well enough, so we need money somewhere. And then they screw the electric car drivers.
Yeah, but it's true. There were all kinds of incentives. I live in Belgium. I'm actually Dutch, but I live in Belgium, and there it's the same. There were a lot of incentives, which was great, and then suddenly the incentives stop, and people switch back to a combustion engine, and I don't understand it. So it's really something. Also, one thing I liked is that you explained that how the Chinese market looks at EVs. They don't call it an EV. Yeah, so I think they call it a new energy vehicle. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think around 2005, 2010, that period, China has had a lot of power outages. They wanted to become the factory of the world, but yeah, factories consume a lot of power, and they were much depending on coal, gas, and oil. And they had a lot of power outages, but they also knew, okay, if we want to build new energy sources, and they're oil-based, so old energy, they need to rely on the US and the partners of the US, Middle East. So China said, okay, we don't want that. So they, I think, quadrupled their energy production in China. Coal is still like half of it, but the other half on top of it, the new ones added are solar, wind, nuclear, water. So China is by far the leader on sustainable energy sources. They add more capacity every year than the rest of the world combined. So the fact that we can buy a solar panel for 100 euros a piece here in Europe is because China did the innovation, did the scaling, because they're all China made. They built those solar panels, wind turbines, not to ruin Europe. They built them so that they could be self-reliant. And we as Europe just we are in the way, lifting, coasting on the wave and profiting from that. And so they call it all new energy. And the cars that use that new energy are new energy vehicles, because they don't want to use the old energy. You see this, so battery technology is one of them. So you see China and their commercial companies buying a lot of mines around the world. So BYD is one of the few car companies that actually owns lithium mines. So they control the resources themselves. That's why they can also be so cheap. Because a Volkswagen or a Mercedes, they still need to buy the batteries from another company, and that's a lot of margin. Yeah, China says, okay, new energy. This is the government policy for energy production, for car companies, for energy companies, and everyone's doing it.
Yeah. But it's also next to the incentive of waiting a long time for your combustion engine by calling it, referring to it as a new energy, and the combustion engine is old energy. It's actually also good marketing from the government, and it's really a right way to mention it, because I think that who wants to have the old when you can have the new? And it's also the same. Like I was thinking about it yesterday. I had somebody said to me, "Oh, I drive an electric car also. It's a pity that it doesn't have an engine. Eh? It's a nice car, but the soul is out of it." I think it's so strange because
for most consumers, it doesn't matter.
No, but actually, I'm an old-timer fan, and of course, there you need to have an engine in it. It's part of the old-timer thing. But a modern, everyday car that brings you from A to Z. I remember the days when I was working for Lexus, that we were actually proud on how silent the engine is. You can't, it's almost not noticeable. And look how it shifts gears. You hardly feel it, but you still feel it. You still hear that engine. And now we've come to the age where you don't hear it, you don't feel it. It's torque. It's incredible. It drives. It's actually the best cars to drive. So it's also that way strange that we in Europe are so much clinging on to the past. So that's also, I think, a good wake up call of your message. But when you
this is a general innovation. You saw this with the LED light bulb, the LED light bulb. Still one of the old line because it was better, and now you hear no one complaining about it.
No,
this with the smartphones, like why does it need internet connection? It was better back in the day. You always will see this friction with new technologies.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of time.
Absolutely, I agree. So, but one of the things that you mentioned also is you also said it in your introduction, like companies like Xiaomi, who are smartphone manufacturers or technology manufacturers who start manufacturing a car, and did that within 2 years, and then actually you mentioned also how many cars they sold within the first hour that somebody could buy that car. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so Xiaomi is, I think, a top 5 smartphone manufacturer. So I think most people know the smartphone brand, and they have a sub-brand called Oppo. And they make televisions, laptops, cameras, like they're a big electronics company. And the CEO says, okay, I'm approaching 50 years old now, and I think the next big thing I need to do is make electric cars, because it's basically a laptop on wheels. It has a battery, it has software, and they're great in software. And the cool thing about making electric cars in China is that the whole ecosystem is there, because the parts you need are not that different from making a laptop, but only bigger. And because the whole ecosystem is already there, you just walk around a few cities, and then you have the battery supplier, the engine supplier, the window button supplier, and then you can start making your car. And the most cool thing is the factories are actually white label. So Apple produces their iPhone at Foxconn. I think the PlayStation is also made at Foxconn. So those companies don't own their factories. BMW, Mercedes, and Volkswagen, they own their factories. But the Chinese car companies are open because they are used to that electronics mindset. So Beijing Auto Company, they said, you can produce your car here because Mercedes used to do it, but they don't sell anything anymore. So I have capacity left. So they refurbished an old factory. That saves a lot of time. They just bought the new machines, and then they plugged in the ecosystem. So, okay, the battery from CATL, the motor electronics from Bosch, the brakes from Brembo. And then you assemble the whole thing. You do the designing, you do the software, but then you can go from nothing to a car within 2 years. And the joke in China is that every noodle shop owner has started a car brand, because it's not that hard to make an electric car. And one cab driver told me Yeah, it's 4 wheels, a battery, a motor, a couch, and a steering wheel, and then you're there. So you have a lot of dog shit bad cars in China, a lot of them, but those will go bankrupt. But like the Xiaomi's are the amazing ones, and you have a famous podcast with Jim, the CEO of Ford company in the US. He has imported Xiaomi SU7, and he said, "Yeah, we imported one from Shanghai. We wanted to drive around for a month to see what it's about." And he said, "I'm driving it already for 6 months. I'm not giving it back because, like he says, I have parking lots full of the Mustangs, the E-Mac. They're not selling." And Xiaomi, they launched the car and sold 100,000 the first 24 hours without reviews. People needed to put in the deposit just on brand value, and then you drive the car. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah. But it's also, people didn't see it, people didn't drive it, and they still purchased about 100,000 units in 24 hours. Yeah. But that's something that of course, I'm quite an Apple fan, but I'm also, sometimes you have like a presentation of Apple and they come with the new technology, and then you already buy it. I have not seen it, you just buy it because you trust that brand. But sometimes I'm also, like, for example, the iPhone 16 was supposed to be the AI phone. I think in September there will be a new phone. I didn't see AI in my phone yet, so it's so slow. And I think that, but one thing you can learn from technology companies is the way they market their products. It's sexy. You see things, and people will feel like, wow, that's really cool. And if you walk into a car showroom, it's really quite boring. There are some cars, they are not really presented in a very nice way. It's just, then I think it's a computer on wheels. You should actually create a feeling like you are in an Apple store, and that you have all this technology, that you get some explanation. What can you do with it, and how will it help you in daily life? And there are so many, the young generation, so many gadget freaks.
Yeah. You right now you walk into a Xiaomi store on a very expensive shopping street, and you see their phones, you see their AR glasses, you see their headphones and their fridges, and you see their car in the same phone shop. And then you walk 100 meters further, and you see a Huawei store with all their cool Huawei consumer technology, laptops, phones, televisions, speakers. And there are 4 or 5 cars in the same phone store or computer store. So they're actually selling those cars as computers, as you're saying. And you can go in the car, and they show the tag. And when you get in the Huawei Ito car, like, you have like a screen rolling down and a beamer on the back, a fridge where you can take drinks. You can play around with the games because there's a full-on gaming computer inside. So they are fully integrated, like, into the shopping street. So you walk around buying clothes, maybe buying some new headphones, and then you play around with the car. And they're just showing the entertainment value because you cannot drive around in a phone store. So it's not even for the test drive. If you want to test drive, you go outside the city on a real car dealership. But within the shopping streets, you just test out the car. And you see Tesla also doing this in China. But yeah, in every shopping mall, you see at least ground floor, you'll see at least 5 or 6 car brands with a shop where you can just play with the car.
Yeah, but I can imagine if you then put on the AR glasses of them, that they could actually simulate that you drive the car, that you're in the car, things like that. You can combine the technology.
Hey, before we hop back into this conversation with Martin, imagine an AI communication layer seamlessly connected to your dealership systems. One intelligent platform that gives both your customers and your team instant access to the right information at the right time. Well, that's Nova Co., short for the Nova Company. At its heart is Nova, the AI model behind it all, inspired by the Nova Star. Bright when needed, invisible when not, just like a good assistant. On your website, Nova appears as the Orb, a glowing, breathing chat bubble that invites customers to ask anything, anytime. But Nova is more than a website assistant. You see, with Nova Companion, she supports your team internally, answering questions using brochures, price lists, stock data, and more. Just instant answers for your team, saving them time and helping them focus on the customer. And with Nova Messaging, she connects with customers on WhatsApp and other channels, managing service updates, follow-ups, and appointment reminders, all in one professional flow. It's pretty cool. And yes, Nova Voice is coming soon, bringing the same intelligence to your phone system and completing the omni-channel experience. You see, customer communication is evolving, but with Nova Co., you're not just adapting, you're setting the pace. Find out more at novaco.ai, that's novaco.ai, and experience what's next. All right, let's get back to Martin.
Yeah, I think some of them are doing it, and they have like the heads-up displays that are fully like on the whole width of the window, so you can also play games on it. And the Huawei has also like they have I think BMW has the laser projector lights, which the German car brands are like laser projection lights. You can see further, whatever, better sight. They never break down, blah blah blah. Very technical. What does Huawei do? They project a game on the floor, and you play whack-a-mole. You need to stamp on the animals that jump out the floor because the laser projects that on the floor. So it's
yeah. No, so people, when they arrive with their Mercedes in China, they see another car you actually mentioned, like you have people who just walk away from the car, and while they walk away, the car parks in.
Yeah, that's legal. That's legal over there. So especially like if you live in a big apartment complex, because the big cities are all apartment complexes, so you have all the parking under the ground, and the cars are fully autonomous in the parking lots. So the Xiaomi, the Huawei is like the modern ones. So you just get out the car, you go to your apartment, and the car drives like the whole thing underground automatically. And it just parks the car. And in the morning, you press on the app, you summon the car, and it just drives out. You have a lot of videos on YouTube you can see about the Chinese car automatic parking, but it's so they mount a GoPro in the car and you see them doing their thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
so
you drive Maybach, it can't do it.
No, no, exactly. No, but
your driver
it's
will
quite
do
cool.
it for you.
Your driver, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but if you look at, I think actually we can learn a lot from that. Also, what you mentioned, if you go to YouTube and you want to see the automatic driving in China, you can see it. Okay, so I will definitely look it up. But if you look here, for example, Mercedes launched a new CLA electric car. A lot of publicity. Mazda is actually promoting the Mazda 6e, the new electric Mazda. Beautiful pictures. You see the pictures, and I think that's a really nice looking car. But then you want to see, how does it drive? How do people experience it? You go to YouTube and you want to see a video of the CLA or the Mazda 6. Yeah. They are not there. They are not there. I can't find it. And if you actually do a good job, everybody believes a Mercedes drives well. And if you actually want to see how big is it, do you need to drive it? Or if you look at a video and somebody explains you how they experience it, how it feels on the road, you might get convinced and actually just order that car when it's available to be ordered. And the process here is, of course, it needs to come out. It's in the showrooms. They expect people to visit, to book a test drive, to handle all the paperwork. So it's such a huge difference in culture, which is also actually setting us back. When I hear your story.
Yeah, I think in China, people still want to feel the cars. They still want to do there are still groups that still want to do the test drives. And it's also fun to do the test drive. But what you see over there is like the social media game, because the smartphone companies are used to use social media very aggressively. You see them doing that as well with the cars. So a lot of influencers and also like selling the small cues of, like, for instance, the Xiaomi car, you can buy scent sticks and you can integrate them into the system. So you have scent in the car. It's not a separate thing. And you can buy them, and people review that stuff, like which scent is better, and they work together with like perfume brands. And so it creates social value on social media, and that's really cool. And that's what those car brands do really well. And also, like, to prove them it drives well, Xiaomi just beat the electric car record on the Nürburgring. So faster than Porsche Taycan, far faster than the Rimac on a freaking Xiaomi saloon car where you can have kids in the back. So
Crazy.
they do those things as well, like the Germans. Like, we prove to you it can drive well. And also they show them, like, what I think Xpeng, Xiaopeng in China. Volkswagen has 5 or 15% stake in the company, and they set their cars to what's called Porsche. So Porsche has a consulting department, and they do the suspension setup with Porsche. So Porsche does the suspension tuning of the Xpeng cars, and that's also how they market them. Yeah, Porsche did the setup, so it drives well. And Geely does it as well with their Zeekrs and their Lincoln Co's, because Geely owns Lotus in the UK. So they said, yeah, the Lotus engineers did the suspension setup. So they also know, okay, wait a minute, like, good setup, good brakes, good suspension. It's become a commodity. Everyone can do it.
Yeah. So they do use the European brands as marketing as well in China.
For some things, yeah. Or they use the European brands to bash them. So Huawei just released Maestro. I think that's the car brand with an X. And that car cost 250,000 euros, and they wanted to compete with the Mercedes S-Class Maybach, because they call it a Maybach in China because it's also the most popular one for the CEOs. It's the same price, and they want to compete with it. And they just use the Mercedes as a comparison in all the videos. Like, our suspension is better, our autonomous driving is better, our 4-wheel drive system is better. When there's a pothole, the Maybach just lifts its wheel, and the Maybach can't do it that effectively. So they just use the German cars to ridicule them. I think NIO just released the ET9, their flagship car, and they just compare it to a 7 Series all the way, and just make the 7 Series look bad. Yeah, and that's why no one is buying 7 Series and S-Classes anymore in China. And also the same thing with Lamborghinis, because you also have Chinese supercars that are cheaper, better, faster, and you get subsidy. And I think the interesting thing you mentioned, the Mazda 6, it's actually built on the Deepal, the Chinese electric car platform. I think the Shanghai Car Show in April, you had a lot of international car journalists coming to Shanghai. I think Volkswagen released 4 or 5 new electric car models, and they will only be for sale in China. They will not be for sale in Europe, because one is made by Xpeng, one is made by Shanghai Auto Company, one is made by Chang'an Auto. So they basically already lost. They outsource their car development and the brand and technology, and just deliver the logo.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, a lot will happen, I'm sure. So you also mentioned what we can learn from China is that they actually don't discuss Euro 7 and things like that. They actually leapfrog. So they leapfrog into the future, and that's their norm. Why is that, and what prevents Europe from doing the same?
I think it's mindset, because we say in Europe we have a lot of legacy, so we cannot leapfrog. For China, the reason with the cars was really easy. China sucked at making combustion engines, because all the ecosystem, the machinery, the metal suppliers, everything you need to make a combustion engine was in Europe, Japan, or the US. China didn't even have the machines to make crankshafts or something like that. So they didn't have the ecosystem, though. Okay, we invest in the next thing, so because we can never catch up with that. And in Europe, we have still the whole infrastructure to make combustion engines, and it's the next thing. There's no charging, so we only think in problems. And you see not many companies making the investment to make the electric cars. Yeah, you have Tesla, but that's a fully electric car company. But like for the combustion companies, they were too late. They were not acknowledging it. So I think it's also a part of management, because for them it would not be a leapfrog. It's just like, we have already the car. We just need to invest money into making one fully electric. And I think the ID3 was like 10 years later than the Model 3. Yeah, that's just accepting this is the next thing. In China, Volkswagen was always number 1 in car sales. And within 3 years, BYD overtook them.
Yeah, because all the taxis were Volkswagens in the past, and now not anymore.
Yeah, so the Chinese government begged Volkswagen to come to China like 30 years ago. Like we want you to manufacture cars in China, um, and they needed to go into the joint venture. So China does like the technology transfer. So we will help you set up your company in China. You need to make a 50-50 joint venture with a Chinese state-owned car company. So that for Volkswagen, the Shanghai Auto Company. But yeah, we will promise you that every taxi in China will be Volkswagen. So that was the Volkswagen Santana. We don't have one here. And Volkswagen made huge amounts of money of that. They made they became very, very, very rich. So they could buy Lamborghini, they could buy Porsche because they made all the money in China. But the Chinese government also told Volkswagen, we're going to go electric. And Volkswagen just didn't invest. They were still fighting Dieselgate here in Europe. They got all the incentives also in China to make electric cars, but just didn't do it.
Yeah, but it's also protecting the old, protecting what makes money is the combustion engine, and as long as we're making money, why change? And then actually time will be a problem for you because actually the others will do it and you lose. And that's what's happening right now.
It depends on your shareholders. Like if your shareholders want like to see profits next quarter of next year, like if your horizon is only the next 2 years, you're not looking in the electric future. Like your horizon needs to be 10, 15 years. And then oh shit, we need to do this now. But yeah, then the CEO maybe is thinking, yeah, in 10 years I will not be around. It's not my problem. It will not get me a better bonus.
No, exactly. That's perhaps the root cause of all of it. But indeed, so here in Europe, we see like incremental changes, like a new facelift, a small update to a models that are around for 7 years or even longer. And that's also, I think, a difference in terms of China, where they have a different mindset. So can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, so car development, because the smartphone companies are making cars there, and smartphones, you get the iPhone 16, 17, 18. Every year you get a new version. They are doing the same with the cars. Every year there will be a new version, or maybe every 2 years. A year may be quite fast, but you see in the smartphone in the car industry in China that facelifts come every 2 years and new models 1 or 2 years later. So I bought my BYD Seal here last year, 2024, but the car was already around, I think, in 2019 in China. But I'm still buying the old model, but in China they already have the facelift with a better battery, better charging, better motor, the whole thing, and more different interior. And we are still not getting it because you need to go through the homologation process for Europe. So we are still getting the old one. But the interesting thing with BYD is they are producing the old one and the new one at the same time. And you can still buy older models in China for cheap. It's the same thing that you can still buy the iPhone 15, I think, from Apple directly. They're still manufacturing the older version for different markets, different price points. And you see that the same thing happening in China with the car brands. This also means that they have more factories. They have multiple factories doing the same thing. But they have fully modularized car development because the software part is different than the hardware part. The interior part is different than the chassis part. And they can choose whichever one comes first and put that model on the market. And you can also crash test when the software is not finished yet. It's you can speed things up, and that's how they are bringing new models out. I think BYD has tripled the amount of models compared to a Toyota or something. Also means that they have a huge amount of engineers. Question here with Western car companies, how can we save money on engineering? Because the accountants run the companies.
Yeah,
with the Chinese companies, where can we get more engineers? We need more. I want more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big difference in thinking. So, and also you mentioned that we see, of course, a lot of Chinese brands coming to Europe, and I think that there were in the 40s or something. But and we think that's a lot. But you mentioned there are actually hundreds of car brands, and only the best ones make it to Europe. So this is like a selection of the many providers out there. So what should European dealer groups expect in the coming years?
Yeah, so we here only see the tip of the iceberg. So we have the big winners like BYD, they come here. We also have the ones that they're not winning in China, so they will find another way out, like Great Wall Motor. Actually, that one is selling quite well, but you have for the iWays, some of them are mediocre and they want to find a way out. But those ones you should be wary of because you don't know, will they be around in 5 years? Or will they go bankrupt or be bought by another company? So that's where, especially for a dealership, like if you want to partner up with a Chinese car company, which are the winners in China? Because you want the car to be around in 10 years. You don't want customers complaining like, yeah, my car, the brand's not around. Where's my warranty? Can I get parts? That's the biggest headache ever. And if your dealership name is on it, that would be very bad for your brand. And the interesting thing is like you have very cool, good car brands in China that they're still not bothering with Europe. So like Li Auto, very big one, very good one in China. They also have super fast charging, super cool tech. Li Auto is still not going to come to Europe, but when that one is coming, you should jump on it. Huawei has Aito, Luxeed, Stellato. They have a few cool brands. Avatar. If those come, you should make sure partner up with those, but do not partner up with a Skywell or a Cherry. Or a Cherry is also okay, but you'll have a few garbage brands that in China, even the Chinese don't. Yeah, they are very cheap. But we don't know if they will be around the next 10 years. And that's what you should check. Like, okay, there's a Chinese company coming to us because they're all coming. They all want to find a dealership network to work together with. Of course, you have the ones like NIO or Xpeng that do direct to consumer. But most of them will need a dealership network because they need to learn how the market works. But yeah, find the ones, do some research in China. Like, is this a good in China? Is this a good brand or not? Do they develop well? And yeah, do the homework. Because if a Li Autocom or an Avatar, make sure those are the big ones with the big money, with the big sales, with the good technology, with the investors. That's the due diligence you should do. Also,
So the advice is keep your eyes open, and
very open.
When the opportunity comes across, jump on it.
Yeah, because there are quite a few big names in China. They're still not in Europe yet, but if they come, those are the ones that like German car brands should be very scared of.
Yeah. Okay, and so let's say if you imagine you're the CEO of a dealer group in Europe with 50 locations. What is the first thing that you would implement today to avoid being left behind?
Yeah, so I think the new generation, Gen Z, is way more digital. So how can we make the car buying experience way more digital? Because when you're in China, you walk into car stores, you have your phone connects with their store, you have an app, you have 3D experience within the car. Right now in the Netherlands, if you go to buy a car, you go to a website with a stupid old ass configurator, which has been the same for the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
The experience just, it's ancient. And when you look at how the Chinese buy their car, like even their websites look like 20 years newer than our websites. But they have their apps, they have their booking systems. Like, don't cheap out on digitizing like the whole sales process and also like the maintenance processes. I'm technically not Gen Z. I hate calling to ask if they have a slot for me.
Yeah, but the dealer hates it as well because it costs too much money. It actually uses their most expensive resources as their people, and indeed it's not digitized enough. And so I would expect that there is a big wave of AI taking care of that in the next years. So do you see that as well?
You don't need AI to make a good booking system.
No.
Like AI is the big buzzword, but like, okay, you need AI it can replace a salesperson or help something if someone has problems with a car. But simple things like, okay, when can I think for a Xiaomi car, if the car needs service, you can do it on the screen already. So it links back with the systems of the dealership. So fully modernized.
it's embedded into the car.
Yeah, connect with the systems that are out there, and I don't expect like the Chinese car systems to connect here with our Western systems yet, because with my BYD I still need to call Laomam, and I hate calling. So it's always a thing you need to do, and you need to go there and wait. It's the service level here is so low compared to what they do there. And I think I liked when Lexus said we pick up your car at home.
Yeah,
no one's doing that. I think it's too expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if the car drives itself, then it's solved. It's solved. If that would happen.
Yeah, so I think service level and digitization, those two things. Like go to China, try to buy a car there, go to the process. Especially with the newer brands, like BYD can still be a bit old school because they are such mass market. But go to the newer ones like Xpeng, like NIO, and try out how they do their process. And even like, because NIO is direct to consumer, even go to like the NIO houses here in Europe, because it's basically the same process, the same vibe. In China, it's even more slick. I think the direct to consumer companies, they are tech companies. They do what Apple do on how to sell a phone, and learn from that process and try to implement also that as well in your dealership.
No, well, good advice. Thank you very much. So it's been interesting having you here. It's really great insights. So for the listeners who want to follow your work or who want to reach out to you, where can they find you? What is the best way to reach out?
Yeah, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is my main channel where I post every day and cool content about China. So that's where you can find me.
So and it's not a company name; it's your own name, John Lin. Yeah, perfect.
And then John Lin, and then you see a green profile picture with a green background. That one.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much again. Good luck with everything. I'll keep following you as well. It was a pleasure having you as a guest. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.